Welcome to Week 4, Part 1, Career Planning. Nursing is a practice profession. As members of an applied discipline that is self-regulated, individual nurses should make sure that they stay current in their knowledge. Also, nursing is a profession. Therefore, nurses need to think about having a career rather than simply having a job that pays relatively well, even if the shifts can be hard to handle. Therefore, career planning and development is an important area for you to be thinking about in this last year of your basic nursing education. Nobody but you can take on this role. Don't expect someone else to lay out your career plan or path for you. You need to figure out what you want to do in nursing and make plans to help you get what you want. As a student, you might not realize that there are many different places where nurses work and the great variety of positions that nurses hold. Now is a good time to think outside the box and imagine what you can do, who you can become as a nurse in this ever-changing world of healthcare. My own CV that is on Moodle only gives you an example of what one nurse has done. There are many other paths that nurses can take. Taking control of your career means that you need to be self-directed and you need to become career resilient. Career resilience is about being flexible and adaptable so you can adapt to changes in your external environment and so you can grow and develop. When I started my hospital-based training at 19 years of age, I certainly never imagined that I would become a nursing professor in a university. My career shifted for many reasons, some of which were personal and others that were professional. For example, my desire to be home for my children when they were very young led me to be working part-time and choosing night shift for a while. It was hard getting home in the morning after a busy night in the ICU and then staying awake with my children who were toddlers, but it was worth it. My application to U of T's MN-NP program came about because I enjoyed being a nurse at the bedside, but wanted to be more involved in healthcare decision-making with my clients. The shift to academia and teaching full-time came about because of my love of teaching RNs within my NP role. I started working part-time with Ryerson University and in 2012 took a full-time position with York University. Last year, I took a tenure track position in global health and primary health care. The more I learned during my education, the more I realized how little I knew, but also that I wanted to learn more. I became interested in research, and since 2016, I've been dabbling in research related to my global health work in Ghana, West Africa. I also realized that me going to university was great role modeling for my children, and I know that my post-secondary education endeavors helped them to see the value in working hard to do what you love, even if it meant sacrifices. So Donner and Wheeler, the 2010 article, identifies 5 stages in a nurse's progression throughout their career. These stages are not necessarily sequential, though, as you can go through a stage more than once during your career depending on what is happening within your life. So the first step is learning. You are nearing the end of your basic nursing program, so you are still in this first stage. But if you choose to undergo further education at some point, then you will go back to this stage. For example, when I did my MN-NP program, I went back to stage 1 as a new student learner in my MN-NP program. Similarly, when I went into the ICU setting, early when I graduated, I had to take a 6-month intensive course. Then I was in stage 1 for that area, even though I've been working as an RN. So think about Benner's theory, and you should be able to see at this time in your BSCN education that you have moved from the novice level and are at least heading to the advanced beginner level. Number 2 is entry. Entry is all about you choosing where to look for your first job as a newly registered nurse. I really suggest that you think carefully about where you think your first job might be. Don't just agree to the first job that you were offered. What ends up becoming important, as you will see in the third stage, is the fit between your values and the values enacted in the setting in which you work. If there isn't a fit, then you put yourself at risk of burnout and perhaps even becoming a statistic as one of the many nurses who leave the profession within a few years. In June, you will be viewed as an advanced beginner. Number 3 is commitment. It's all about you having a better understanding of yourself as a nurse. You should fit with Benner's competent level at this point. You've had 2 to 5 years working as a nurse and are ready to evaluate your career goals and perhaps consider continuing your education. Lifelong learning is supposed to be a hallmark of nursing, though some nurses seem content to do no more than formal learning. Others, like I, are eager for further education very soon after they finish their initial education. The timing itself is not as important as your readiness for taking the next step. I'll talk about graduate education in a few minutes. Number 4 is consolidation. When you've become comfortable with your chosen career path and can balance your personal and professional lives, then you are likely to want to mentor others and take on a leadership role in professional and community organizations. You should be at the proficient level, maybe on your way to being an expert nurse. It's a great stage to be in, and for many nurses who are women, I find that it tends to come when their children are a bit older and they feel as if they can take time for themselves. The next stage is withdrawal. In the 5th stage, withdrawal, nurses prepare for retirement and begin to think about what comes after nursing. So, continuing education. There are multiple ways, both formal and informal, in which you can continue your education. Volunteering with professional and non-professional organizations can help increase your skills in a variety of ways. For example, from learning and using a new skill to speaking or presenting in public. Healthcare settings sometimes provide workshops to employees, and you could take advantage of them. Other organizations, such as RNAO and ONA, also offer workshops, and often at a nominal cost to members. Sometimes you can even get funding from your employer or another organization to help you attend a conference in your area of interest. Specialty nursing courses and certificates are offered at many Ontario colleges, and the CNA's certification program is a sought-after requirement by some nursing employers. Remember to add both your formal and informal education to your resume as you go along. So keep your resume up to date and don't fall behind in updating it. You never know when you might need your current resume. I will talk shortly about preparing your resume when applying for your first job. Graduate education can be at the master's or doctoral level. Many master's programs in nursing no longer require that students do a thesis, so their own research study. But up until this year, all doctoral programs in nursing within Canada, so PhD programs, required students to conduct their own original research, so as a dissertation. Despite what has been a national agreement that doctoral nursing programs were to be research-based, the University of Toronto Bloomberg Faculty of Nursing has moved ahead with a doctorate in nursing. The first intake was supposed to be September 2020, but it has been put off until the fall of 2021, likely because of the pandemic situation. If you are considering graduate education, then I suggest you talk to other people who have gone back to school, including your professors. You should always review the information on the websites of the educational programs you are interested in. Having someone as your mentor can be very helpful, not only if you are thinking about graduate education, but also just throughout your career. You may, in fact, have or need multiple mentors, as each would bring different strengths to the mentor-mentee relationship. I have mentored many students and ex-students over the years, and I still mentor someone who was a student in the collaborative program back in 2005. I find it really satisfying to work with people who want to reach their potential. Donner and Wheeler have some excellent advice about mentorship in their career-related document. Graduate education can be expensive, and especially so if you need to stop working or at least go part-time once you start your program. There are some scholarships and other sources of support available, but not for every applicant. You might need to put off going back to school until you have acquired the appropriate financial resources or are assured of having them once you start, so it is important to have a plan. For example, do you need to work full-time and save for 1 to 2 years so you can afford to attend university? Some programs, such as our own graduate school, offers funding to top full-time students, but not all nursing schools provide funding, and most do not fund part-time students. Some other sources of funding for graduate education include professional organizations, unions, and federal programs, such as the Canadian Institute of Health Research. They all require applications, and though it can take a lot of effort to complete these applications, it is really worthwhile if you receive funding. Obtaining funding as a master's and doctoral student also lays a foundation for getting more funding moving forward. Being seen as fundable can help you become more successful the next time you apply for funding. In addition, if you want to become a professor in a university, then funding as a graduate student will normally be viewed as an advantage when you apply for a university level position. So stay tuned for part 2, where we move into resume writing and interview skills.